Hello, I'm Vanilla Luminosity, and I'm gonna do something that I don't often do, which is an ASMR video. This ASMR video is going to focus on something kind of silly, but mostly educational. Something that I enjoy a lot, which is spells. Most specifically, Asuka's spells in Guilty Gear Strive. I'm going to explain each and every single one of them. This will be a great resource for aspiring wizards, warlocks, and sorcerers. Of course, any other spellcaster will find some value out of this, but maguses are going to find less value than most spellcasters, and wizards are going to find the most, of course. So, let's get in by talking about just the basics really quick. Asuka has 3 test cases, and in each of these test cases hold a unique pool of spells in different varying amounts. Each test case has a pool of 30 spells, and once you hit 0, it resets back to 30. The use of this function is being able to know when your test case is about to reset. Say if you've used all of your Howling Metrons, you know when your test case resets, you're going to recharge all of them. It also gives you some sort of knowledge, meaning if you know you've already used a spell, or a few types of spells, you can tell what's left in your spell case by how many spells you have left. Say you have 12 spells left and you've used all of your Metrons, you know the only remaining spells are going to be utility or staffs or weirdo spells. So that's something to keep in mind. We're going to talk about spells broken up in groups of spells of similar types, such as mana spells, bookmark spells, staff spells, metron spells, and your utilities/other spells. Let's start with mana. The first mana spell is Reduced Mana Cost. You have 2 of these available in this case 1. What this does is applies a buff to you that reduces the cost of spells by 50% for a very generous 10 seconds. Now, this is one of my favorite spells to get just out of the gate at round start, because it's very, very beneficial to use because conserving mana is extremely, extremely useful. Having high mana is always better than having low mana, obviously, so use this whenever you can. I like to throw a cube and immediately chain it into reduced mana cost so that all of my future spells for 10 seconds have reduced mana costs. I also like to save this for going into test case 3 and getting bookmark auto import, but I'll talk about that more specifically later once we get to it. It's a pseudo Exodia card in a sense. I'll also talk about that when we get to that. Next we have Recover Mana Instant. There are 2 of these in test case 2. Now, this is a little more situational, because instead of just reducing your mana cost, it gives you mana back instantaneously. However, it's situational in the sense that it eats every single one of your cards currently bookmarked for additional mana recovery. So, say you have a spell you want to discard. If you have Mana Regen Instant, you will both regenerate mana and get rid of that card. Although, this is very dangerous as it leaves you with no spells, and there's no way to synergize this with anything else because it eats all of them. You can, however, synergize it with your Harmonic Boost super, which lets you bookmark all of your spells as you desire. It's not called Harmonic Boost, it's called Bookmark Full Order, but, it says Harmonic Boost when he does it, so I just call it Harmonic Boost because it's the easiest for everybody to recognize. So, Recover Mana Instant is probably my least favorite in this section because it's very hard to use efficiently and very scary to use, and just kind of situational. However, when you're in the situation that calls for it, you're low on mana and you want to discard a spell or 2, and you'll be able to bookmark a new one safely, or relatively safely. It's extremely valuable to have because it just gives you everything you need. But it's very rare to be in that exact situation, isn't it? Your next mana spell is Recover Mana Continuous. There are 2 of these in test case 3. Now, this is one of your Exodia cards, or I call them Exodia cards because it's crucial to to my WinCon personally, and some other Asuka's WinCons. Now, every Asuka does play differently, but I really, really do enjoy getting mana recover, or recover mana continuous, because it gives you a buff that continuously recovers mana for 15 seconds at a rate of 9 mana per second, or 9% mana per second, which means you get a total of 135% mana recovered over the 15 seconds, which is amazing. This is very, very good for just throwing out spells however you want, and recovering mana automatically. Now, if you lose your mana shield, you will lose this buff, unfortunately. But if you're taking damage and losing mana from the hits, of course, this buff does not pause, and you continue regenerating mana, which means in some situations it will save you from a mana break, which will save you from death. So that's very, very good. It's amazing to have, and you should use it immediately whenever you get it, in most situations, of course. When you're safe, at least. Whenever you can use this, you should use this. It is a fantastic spell, because mana is your most important resource, and this just gives you a lot of it for just being alive, basically, for just existing, for just using it. It is incredibly strong and is one of the best spells that you can get access to. Next up are your bookmark spells. Bookmark spells are very good and very strong utility, just like your mana spells. So, bookmark starts with bookmark full import, and there are 2 of them available in test case 1. So, bookmark full import will bookmark spells into all of your currently open slots, including the slot that this spell resides in. So if you have 3 empty slots and bookmark full import, you'll receive 4 new spells automatically bookmarked. It is honestly amazing to use because you need spells, and this gets you your spells. It's great to have. It's great to use all of your spells and then just get them all back immediately, very, very safely. It's not like super safe, but it's not a very unsafe option too. If you chain the spell with other spells, it's very good. Or if you're full screen, you can kind of just use this. Not many characters can punish this full screen. So, use it when you need it. It's very, very good. The way that I like to use this spell most specifically is using all of my spells, swapping test cases, and then using bookmark full import to get 4 brand new spells in whatever test case I just swapped into. That's a very fun way of using it. Or just using spells in a certain test case that you don't want to carry over, or anything really. Basically, I like to use it when I swap test cases to get a start in getting new spells for my new test case. However, sometimes test case 1 is good enough, and I just like to use it to reload my spells and continue block string or pressure. So it's very, very nice to have. Your next bookmark is bookmark random import, in which you have 2 of them available in test case 2. Much like recover mana instant in also test case 2, this is very situational and probably my least favorite bookmark spell. Again, like recover mana instant, when you're in the right situation, it can be very useful. But I do think it's just a worse version of bookmark full import, but situationally it can technically be better. So what it does is, instead of filling your empty slots, it shuffles your full slots. So if you have 3 empty spells and bookmark random import, you will only get 1 new spell. However, if you have 4 spells and you use it, you will get 4 brand new spells. It just shuffles your hand. So let's say, now keep in mind there are no bad spells. Every single spell is good in certain situations. But let's say you're in a situation where some of your spells just aren't applicable. Let's say you have a Kulimetron, you're on offense, and you have 2 staffs loaded, and a bookmark random import. None of those spells are very useful right now because you're on offense, and you're not going to be able to set up staffs safely. So taking a very quick bookmark random import is much easier than getting rid of them all by discarding or using them. And it'll give you 4 brand new spells that are hopefully more useful in your current situation. It's much easier to discard spells like this than actually discarding them or using them just to get rid of them. But it is much more situational because it gets rid of everything. If you have a really good spell, you have to use it first or lose it. Your next bookmark spell is Bookmark Auto Import, in which there are 2 of them available in Tiskies 3. This is another one of my Exodia cards, if you would. That is one of my favorite spells and is very top tier in my opinion, right up there with Recover Mana Continuous. And the synergy they have together is downright a win condition. So what this does is it applies a buff to Asuka that automatically bookmarks a new spell after using Chant, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So it doesn't shuffle your hand, it doesn't discard anything, and it doesn't immediately give you any new spells besides the one slot you use to cast it. What it does, however, is when you use a spell, a new one immediately and automatically takes its place. So you can kind of just spam spells as fast as you want. However, you will burn through your mana supply extremely quickly. But if you bring a reduced mana cost from Tiskies 1, or you find a Recover Mana Continuous, which is also found in Tiskies 3, with auto import, that is much less of an issue, and you can use spells much more freely than you normally can. The spells that get automatically imported are only from your currently selected test case. So, if you want spells from test case 2 or 1 while auto import is active, you will have to swap manually, which is not that hard when you're rolling out Metrons like there's no tomorrow. This is an amazing spell to use, and it can be genuinely an amazing and very strong win condition, as it effectively gives you infinite spells while you have the mana to afford it. So, it's very, very good. The next set of spells that I want to talk about are your staff spells. These spells, they change the properties of sometimes heal and always your projectiles, your Metrons. Now, they don't affect Terra Metron or a Sipperter Metron or your high compression submicron particle sphere when you use the alternate version, which is your kick version. If you use your punch version of high compression submicron particle sphere, it will affect that spell, your super, basically. That's your super. So do keep that in mind. When you're supering any of the staff out, you can choose which spell, or which version of that spell, if you want it to be affected by your staff or not. The first staff I want to talk about is your High Pass Filter Gravity. There are one of these in test case 2, and what this does is it places a staff that extends your jump height and causes your Metrons and spells affected to go up, basically. It's a high pass gravity filter. Now, I want to talk about your jump height first, because this can be both a burden and a blessing. So effectively what this does is it gives you a very, very big jump. This however makes doing overheads a lot more, telegraphed and makes jumping in a lot easier to get anti-aired. However, you have much safer options for jumping and running away. You can jump to the full height of the screen that you're allowed to with a double jump, meaning you have a very, very strong runaway when this is available. Because while you're in the air, nobody can really hit you, and while you're in the air, you can bookmark any spells or use spells, but you're not going to hit many of them. It's too hard to really hit spells like that, so it's better just to not do it. But if it's something you want to love out, you definitely can. But jumping full screen away is very, very easy, and you can do it in both directions. So it's a very, very good defensive option. But using it offensively to get jump-ins or overheads or like jump overheads and block strings is very, very bad. And it's not going to be great. However, in line with being defensive, this also makes your projectiles very, very defensive. Oh, I said in line of being defensive, or did I say offensive? This spell is defensive. This spell is for running away and having really good projectiles. So, while you have this staff up, oh, by the way, each staff lasts for 10 seconds when you place it. While you have this staff up, your projectiles are launched upwards at first, and then they go down, and then they go up, basically mimicking a high frequency wavelength. If you don't know what that looks like, I'm sorry, but you're gonna need to do some studying. When your spells are in such a high frequency wavelength, they go up and down and up and down. That gives you a lot of coverage, because one, they're very weird and harder to predict, which means most people will not try to swat them away with jabs or anything, because the chance of missing and getting hit are very high. It will catch a lot of low moves like Stroke the Big Tree or Night Raid Vortex, and can even catch jump-ins if not timed properly. So it basically makes all of your Metrons have pseudo-properties of your Howling Metron MS processing, which we will talk about later, so just remember the name. This is very, very good for controlling space because people are going to have a much harder time jumping in on you or using certain moves like Night Raid Vortex to get in on you from below, and makes people more apprehensive to swat them away, and just makes it more common for people to block them. So that is a very, very fun spell to have for Keep Away. Now, remember, you can't always be a Keep Away character because you will run out of cubes, but while you have them, this is very, very good for getting some chip damage and getting some breathing space to regenerate mana or swap test cases or anything. And it synergizes well with you getting extra jump height to be able to run away. So that's very, very good to have for your defensive gameplay. The next spell I want to talk about is the inverse, which is your low pass filtered gravity. This reduces your jump height and causes your spells to stay more stuck to the ground, which is much less useful in Keep Away. It will stuff Night Raid Vortex and Stroke the Big Tree and moves like that that go under projectiles, but people can jump over them much easier, especially since they stick to the ground a lot more. But what this does is it gives you very, very fast and strong instant rising overheads, since your jump is a lot more like stuck. So most people think like, I want to be able to jump, and jumping away is really good. This reducing my jump height is really bad because I won't be able to jump away and I'm more stuck to the ground and more limited. However, this is an offensive staff. You use this when you are trying to mix up, and it comes in test case 2, which is your mix up test case. When you have this, it really opens the door for 50-50s and mix up options because you have very, very fast jumping moves and you're so close to the ground. When you jump, you can just immediately do a air move, and they're much, much more advantageous because you land on the ground faster than if you didn't. So they're harder to react to and they're more advantageous because you land cancel. And that's really, really good for mix-ups. It's much less generally useful because your full screen game becomes a lot weaker, your defensive game becomes a lot weaker because your projectiles go on the floor and they stick there, and they go low, but it gives you great 50-50s. It is also to mention that projectiles launch at a decreased speed, but you usually won't notice that. Also with high pass gravity, they launch at a higher speed, but again, you probably won't notice it very often, and it's only applicable in very, very specific combos, especially since weight has been normalized. When you're in test case 2, high pass gravity filter is great for defensive options and running away, and your low pass filter gravity is very, very good for offensive situations and very, very good mix-ups. Moving on to your next staffs are probably the ones that I should have talked about because they're in test case 1 and that just would have made more sense. These are the two staffs that are in test case 1. Let's start with shooting time stretch accelerate. Sorry, I'm talking a little loudly, aren't I? I'm supposed to be doing ASMR, so I should be more soft and quiet. Sorry, I get excited, is all. Shooting time stretch accelerate is a spell in test case 1, and there's only one of them in test case 1. What this does is it places a staff that makes your projectiles accelerate, they go faster. Now, they do more than just making your spells go faster, of course. They increase the base projectile speed by 25%, and as your spells travel across screen, they rapidly accelerate. This is a very strong zoning buff, as people can just swat them away and they'll most likely get hit by it. And what's very interesting is these cubes apply Guard Crush. No, the reason they apply Guard Crush is because they're hitting you faster, so they just hit you harder. The real, the gameplay reason, the balancing reason is when you shoot a spell, depending on, how far you are and how late the projectile hits, is the amount of blocks done or hits done that you will receive. The closer you are, the sooner the enemy's blocks done or hits done begins. Your recovery animation is absolute, it is finite, it is what it is no matter any distance. So if you're further and you complete your animation and then it hits, you're a lot more plus than if you're close and it hits and you're still finishing your animation while their block's done is active and beginning. So close range, this applies a Guard Crush to counteract that, meaning your Accelerate is a fantastic option just to use whenever you can, because it gives you an amazing zoning buff. It makes your zoning amazing. And it also gives you it also doesn't close the door for offensive block strings or anything, because it still applies that Guard Crush and gives you extra, oomph. It also, on hit, increases the launch speed by 100%. Means on hit, it also lets you combo things the same way as if you hit them without Accelerate. And the next very interesting thing about this, which makes it very strong, as if everything it didn't already have was very strong, every single one of your Metrons wall bounce in the corner. So normally your your Metron Screamer 808 is the only spell that wall bounces. It's your only wall bounce option. And it's really good because it wall bounces. This makes any of your Metrons wall bounce, which lets you do insanely fun combos and get very good wall breaks and reward. Now I know, a lot of Asukas, especially beginners to intermediates, do not really enjoy using the staff spells because they're awkward to set up and they're awkward to use and use properly, because they change what you want and you have to adapt to them. But this spell, Shooting Time to Stretch Accelerate, is an amazing option and is very simple in practice. You have this spell that's really good and you should try to set it up as safely but as quickly as you can, because it gives you everything that you need. Unlike the other two staffs that I talked about, the low pass and high pass, they just give you a straight buff. There's no technical downside. With high pass, you can't go for good jump-ins because it's reactable. With low pass, you can't run away as easily because you're stuck to the ground, but you get strengths in other ways. Shooting Time Stretch Accelerate just gives you a general buff to everything you need. Now, is it always useful in every single situation? No, of course not. But generally speaking, it's very easy to use and very easy to get value of, especially in the corner when you get wall bounces off of any of your Metrons. It is amazing to have. But yes, it's not applicable for every single situation, every single time. Because sometimes you want your spells to do different things and you don't just want them to go shooting across the screen very quickly. But generally speaking, Shooting Time Stretch Accelerate is a very good spell to have. Now we're going to move on to the inverse, which is Shooting Time Stretch Decelerate. There is only one of these. There's only one in test case 1, and there's only one Accelerate in test case 1. There's only one staff. Or one card per staff type in each test case. Each test case has 2 different staffs that are usually opposites of each other. or are just always opposites of each other, rather, and there's only one of them in each test case. But shooting time stretch decelerate is also very, very good and very, very generally easy to use and useful. Much like accelerate, they are both very, very easy to use and very, very good. Now, decelerate is a lot more simple than accelerate. What decelerate does is it makes all of your projectiles go 50% slower and slow down over time. So you would think, is that good or is that bad? Situationally, it's either. Just like projectiles going faster can be good or bad. It's easier to hit with faster projectiles, yes. And accelerate gives you wall bounces and guard crushes, and that's really, really good. But decelerate opens up the door for amazing, amazing things. Having slow projectiles is way, way stronger than a lot of people think, just for different things. So what you do is you throw a projectile, and since it's so slow, you recover while it's still, in the air, and you control a lot of space very, very well. Like, if you have shooting time surge decelerate and your MS processing Metron, you can control pretty much the whole screen. These people can't jump in, they can't go low, they have to hit it first, and you can react very quickly to that. So it's very, very nice to have, because let's say you have that, you set up a wall of Metrons that are moving very, very slowly. They have to do something to get past it, or just block it, or eat it, or hit it, and that, takes time for them to do. While you're sitting behind your Metrons, this allows you to do anything you want, really. Cover mana, bookmark new spells, or even approach behind them safely. Since you can't walk forward and block at the same time, of course, you're vulnerable when you're walking forward for the most part. When you have projectiles in front of you, it's like a shield. They either have to sit there and block them or hit the projectiles first, and by the time they hit the projectile, you could have gained a lot more space. So you can close distance against somebody very, very easily. Now, you usually don't want to close distance as Asuka unless you start running out of Metrons, and then you kind of have to, or you die. That's just the kind of character Asuka is. But if you're against somebody like Axel Low, or Happy Chaos, or other Asukas even, having Decelerate really lets you approach very, very easily, and it's amazing to have. Even if you don't want to approach, having Decelerate gives you plenty of time to recover things after using spells and gives you a very good defensive wall for doing these things. And in combos, it's very irrelevant if you have Decelerate or not on block strings, because your projectiles come out, and usually when you're in combos or block strings, they hit pretty immediately after coming out. So it's very, very good to have, but in most situations, much like Accelerate. So these staffs are very, very fun and very, very interesting, and more Asukas need to use them. I think it's one of the biggest learning curves. So our next two staffs are both in Dosuke's 3, and there's one of each. These staffs are a lot harder to use, and it's very strange, and they're more complicated than the other two. This one definitely has a bigger learning curve. However, Gravity Rod shooting is essentially an Exodia card as well, meaning you can create some theoretically infinite combos, basically. What this does is you place a staff, and you can control where you place it with the directional inputs, unlike the other staffs I've talked about, where you don't have to do that. You do have to place the staff very consciously, or else it'll be silly. So what this does is, it puts down a staff, creates a gravitational orbit. Yes, if it sounds complicated, that's because it is. Basically, it pulls in spells and makes them orbit the staff in a circle. So if the staff is behind you and you shoot a spell, your spells are going to go forward and then they're going to get sucked in behind you, which is bad. And then they will orbit behind you, which is okay. If they're mid-screen, you're going to shoot them and then they're going to get caught in the orbit, and there will be a spell circling the orbit in the middle of the screen. You put it behind the opponent, it will shoot, get pulled in, etc. So what this does is, it's very, very strong because, one, it makes your Metrons very, very active, because now they're just kind of circling around this orbit, and it launches opponents towards the staff, which means towards you in most cases if you're ready. So you can go for some very, very long combos, because after every hit, they're getting launched towards, theoretically and hopefully, you. Even your high compression 7-micron particle sphere, which is your super. So you can use this to chain together cube spells. You can super, and then you can super again, or you can use 4 cube spells, super, harmonic boost, get 4 more spells, use all of them, keep going, build another bar, use another super. It's very, very complicated and very, very good. Now, what this does do is it does shut down, depending on where it is, it does shut down some of your gameplay, because you can't zone full screen unless you put it behind them, and if you're putting it behind them, it's not super useful. It's generally good to put it right in front of you or mid-screen or somewhere where you can get amazing value out of this, because the orbiting function is amazing since you can get some crazy combos very easily. This is something to lab out, and this is a great spell, and it's hard to use, but it's very, very good. And of course, the inverse is your repulsive rod shooting. So it also creates a gravitational area, and you can place it anywhere on the screen, much like gravity, much like gravity rod shooting. This is your repulsive rod. This pushes your metrons away. So if you're in the metron and you shoot, or if you place the repulsive rod right above your head and you shoot a metron, it'll go forward, and then it'll get pushed towards the gravity. So if you're shooting it, it'll push the metron faster. If you're behind it, it will shoot the metron, and then it'll bounce it back to you, which is weird. So basically, you use it as a boomerang by putting it behind somebody, so if they jump over it, it'll boomerang back and hit them. Or you use it on top of you to shoot your things faster, like a worse version of Accelerate, which is just not generally useful to use. Basically, you want to get a hard knockdown and put Repulsive Rod behind them, because it also launches in a different way than normal. And if for whatever reason a cube misses, it will shoot and come back. This is not as useful as Gravity Rod, but Repulsive Rod is good for certain situations. The main thing about Repulsive Rod is in block stun or on hit stun, it pushes the opponent closer while you're staying advantageous on block, which is very, very good. So each cube is actually hitting them and they're getting closer to the rod, specifically, like right in the middle of the rod. So you can kind of lock down people's positioning. And again, you can extend combos with it, much like Gravity Rod. It's not as good as Gravity Rod, but you can extend combos with it much in the same way. So the next set of spells are going to be your most common spells, obviously. Because they, or maybe not obviously, but they are your fireball spells, they're your damaging spells. All the other spells that we've talked about so far have been utility or setup or buffs and substance. These spells are your actual, damage spells, your pressure spells, your harass spells, your everything really. I mean, not everything really, but they are your spells that actually deal damage and block stun, hit stun, all of that. Or they're simply just your Metron spells. Now you might be asking, what is a Metron? And in this case, Metrons are just cubes. So if I say Metron, it's just a cube. Is that what Metron actually means? No, I have no idea actually, but no, it's not. I don't know what Metron means. I mean, I know what it means, but I can't explain it because I don't really know what it means. But Metron is a cube. So just keep that in mind. And the spells that Asuka casts and this type of magic that I cast are essentially just data. And the simplest form of data usually comes in the form of a cube or a metron. So That's just kind of the way that Asuka casts his spells. So, your first Metron that I want to talk about is your Howling Metron. This is your blue cube, your water cube, whatever you would like to call it. This is your most basic, most simple building block of your kit. It is a strong, fast-moving projectile, and it's single hit. It's very good. So, the thing about Howling Metron is there's a lot of them. There are 6 of them in test case 1, 3 of them in test case 2, and 2 of them in test case 3. So you have a good amount of them. They're very fast to cast, and they are, unlike most projectiles in this game, especially fast ones, less on block, which is very, very good. It's a very great tool for zoning. It's a very great tool for extending combos, and it's an okay tool for block strings because you are plus on block. It's very, very good. You're not super plus, don't think you can do whatever you want, but you are plus on block. And everybody knows being plus on block is better than being negative on block. Right? Right. You can also, of course, cancel this spell into more spells, into reloading spells, into recover mana, into swap discus, into supers, into moves, all of that. So it's very, very good to have. So your blue Metron is very basic, it's very, very good. It's it's an invaluable combo tool. So, like, it's just amazing. It is priceless to have, it's great, it's common. It's not the best, but it's certainly very, very good to have. And just in neutral, it's very, very good to throw out. It's a great poke, it's a great fireball, it's a great harass tool. It's great for block strings, it's great for everything. I love Howling Metron, it's amazing. There's not really too much to really talk about it besides it's just solid, it's just very, very good. It's exactly what you need. Now your next Metron is your delayed Howling Metron. This is your lightning cube, your yellow cube, whatever you want to call it. There are 5 of them in test case 1, 3 in test case 2, and 2 in test case 3. So it's about as common as your Howling Metron, just 1 less in test case 1. Since, in its nature, it's a multi-hit projectile, it has to come with a longer cast time, which is where the delayed comes from, in delayed Howling Metron. So, what this is a more volatile version of your Howling Metron, which is apparent by its cackling lightning and energy just going off of it, which is, you know, a very good design kill. I like that a lot. So, what you can use this for is, in neutral, it's kind of high risk, high reward because it's more unsafe to cast because it has a longer cast time, but if it hits them, it's very, very easy to pick up the combo or the block string because it's a multi-hit, and it is very, very plus on block. It is amazingly plus on block, especially with your acceleration staff. So this spell is not as just generally applicable in neutral. You can still use it in neutral if you truly wanted to, and it's not the worst option in neutral, but where this spell really shines is in offensive situations. It is an amazing, fantastic tool for carrying combos, for continuing block strings, and just general offense and pressure. When you have a delayed Howling Metron, you can do a combo, hit the delayed Howling Metron, reload a spell, and still have enough time to continue the combo, which is amazing. And it's the same on block. You can do your block string, use delayed Howling Metron, reload a spell, and by the time that delayed Howling Metron is done hitting them, you're still able to continue your block string after reloading a spell. So that is very, very good to have. It's a fantastic spell. However, just because it's multi-hit does not mean it takes multi-hits. You can still it still loses to a single hit projectile, which will them both out, or against charge stun edge will just go through, loses to Jackal minions, and loses to people, like 6-ping them. So do keep that in mind. It's not It's not a, like, strong walling tool. It's not a strong jailing tool. But on block and on hit is where it really shines as one of the best spells you have. I really, really like Delayed Howling Metron. It's amazing. Your next Metron is Howling Metron MS Processing, which is your green cube or your wind cube, however you want to call them. There are 5 in test case 1, 3 in test case 2, and 2 in test case 3. The same amount as the Delayed Howling Metron. So Howling Metron MS Processing is different in the sense that it fires 3 projectiles, and the top and bottom one are angled, so it creates a sort of arc. Meaning this is a fantastic neutral tool. And while you can use it to extend combos and block strings, where this one really specifically shines is in the neutral because it's amazing, amazing screen control. So it's really good at preventing air dashes because there's the upper Metron that will catch people. And it's really, really good at stopping low-profile moves like Soul's Night Raid Vortex, Ino's Stroke the Big Tree, Kai's Stun Dipper, Sin's, what is it called, Hawkbeaker, Bird Driver, whatever that move is called. It's really good at stopping low-profile moves as well because of that lower Metron. So people typically just have to block it, beat it, or try to hit it. And trying to hit it is unsafe because there's still 3 of them, so you'd have to hit it with a very good move that kind of eats all of them, or you'll just hit the middle cube and get hit by one of the other ones, and usually both, depending on how big you are. So most creatures are forced to, if you want to hit them, you either have to use like a wide arcing move and hit them all, which is not very common to have and even work. You're most likely going to 6-pay it, which is a lot slower than a 5-pay, which is how most people will get rid of them because it recovers the fastest, which means that gives you a lot of time to do whatever you want. So you can reload spells behind it, you can recover mana, you can fire more spells. It's very, very good screen control. So your Howling Metron, Blue Cube, is just very good all around. Very good in neutral, very good in block stun, very good in offense, just very good at all times. Your Delayed Howling Metron is not as good in neutral, but extremely good in block stun and hit stun in offensive situations. And your Howling Metron MS Processing is not so good in offensive situations, but it is amazing in neutral and has fantastic screen control. Now, of course, the weaknesses and strengths aren't super extremely volatile. Like, you can use Delayed Howling Metron in neutral, it's fine, just know that it's higher risk, higher reward, and it's longer to cast, so do keep that in mind. And Howling Metron MS Processing is a-okay to use in block stun or on hit stun for weaving in between your combos, because it will continue combos very easily and also launch them higher than Blue Cube. So it's very good on that too, but they each have their own general strength. Blue Cube is great all around, Yellow Cube is great offense, and Green Cube is amazing in neutral and defense / screen control. So that is all very, very good and very important to keep in mind. So do think about that. Your next spell is Metron Screamer 808. Metron Screamer 808 is available in test case 1, where there are 5 copies, and test case 2, which are 3 copies. Notice there are no copies in test case 3, unlike all the other Metrons we've talked about so far. So, Metron Screamer 808 is a short-range pseudo-projectile that kind of just... it's a big fireball directly in front of you. It guard crushes and is the only move that causes a wall bounce unless you have Accelerate Staff, which we talked about earlier. So you can use this as an extremely strong, like, poke or disjoint or just very fast startup. It's amazingly fast on startup. Its whole frames is very quick. It's got a huge hitbox. It's relatively active and it launches people. full screen, it's plus on block by a lot. It's a great round start option because against most characters, some characters can still hit you out, but a lot of characters, if you know frame one start your Metron Screamer 808 out round start, you will hit them and then you will be full screen where they're closer to the corner as well, so you can push them into the corner easier, or just play the full screen game. So that is just amazing to have. It's very, very good. You can also TK it and make it a great option for that. Honestly, like TKing it is a very, very good choice on round start as well. So that is very, very good because you can dodge a lot of things and it'll still hit because the hitbox is just so massive. And it puts them where you want them in situations. I mean, of course, better round starts give you full combos and let you just be on top of them and have pressure, but that's not always what you want, especially as Asuka, and depending on the other spells you get. Them being launched full screen is generally very safe for you. So that's very, very good because you can build resources, swap test cases, recharge that spell that you used, all of that. And it's great at stuffing approaches, like against rushdown characters who are just running at you, because if they block it, they're full screen again, which is amazing, or they block it and then they're negative and you can start doing whatever you want. So it's a very, very good spell. The only downside is its range and its limited availability, as there are none of them in test case 3. So your next Metron spell is Metron Arpeggio. This spell is a very long startup, but is one of the best spells I think you have. So it's 31 round startup, which means you can't just throw it willy-nilly. But I mean, if you can set up a neutral, it's amazing. So what this does is it creates a portal behind you that shoots out cubes in 2 volleys. It's 5 cubes each, and they cover a wide, wide area, very similar to Howling Metron MS Processing. It's an amazing, amazing lockdown. Like, when this is out, you can't jump it, you can't go below, you can't really hit them, you just kind of have to block them. It's very strong. There is a gap in between both volleys, but you can make that, like, you can lock it down. You can make it airtight by just being there, throwing, or just not being there and throwing other cubes, or being there and doing high low mix-ups, which is probably better, because you do a standing overhead and, you know, you're negative. The next volley of cubes is going to show up pretty soon, and you won't be negative if you time it right. Same with standing lows, or jump attacks, or 5D. You could do a low or a 5D, and if you charge test and they block it, and you time it right, those cubes are going to come and make you safe. So it is an extremely strong neutral tool, and if you can set it up, you're golden for as long as it's active. It is very, very good. Like they just have to block it, because like most characters, even if they super jump, you're gonna get clipped. Most characters just don't have options to avoid this, since it covers high and low and middle, and there's so many of them, and there's 2 volleys. You're not avoiding all of them unless you have like a teleport, which is, you're not gonna have a teleport unless you're Asuka and have good marker. It's just, it's insane. It's so good. The Metron Arpeggio is so amazing, and it looks so, so nice. It's aesthetically amazing. So, this, I mean, we've talked about its, like, neutral, or, like, block string. So, if you're neutral, you just have a wall of cubes in front of you and 2 volleys. You can do whatever you want. Recharge mana, reload spells, swap test cases, just sit there and wait, tons. You can fucking emote if you want to. Or you can run up, do 50-50s, do high-lows, do grabs, do whatever you want. It's also a combo tool, obviously, so of course it's obviously a combo tool. If it hits you, you're getting hit by these cubes, and Asuka can just start comboing you. And it's just amazing. It's so, so incredible. But what it lacks is, it's the longest startup in the game, or not in the game, but it's the longest startup spell that Asuka has, and it's your most expensive spell. It costs 24% of your mana. 24% is a lot. It costs a quarter of your mana, of your total mana, like bar. So it is very, very expensive, and it's very, very hard to just force and use because 31 frames startup is very high. It's very unsafe. You usually want to be full screen, and they have just no way to like get to you in time because a lot of characters can, or you want to get a hard knockdown and set it up. But when you get it set up, it is fantastic. It is just amazing. There are 3 of them available in test case 3, so that's just really something special to really consider. And yes, and there's 3 of them, which is just amazing to have. It's a great spell. Your next Metron is Delayed TARDIS Metron. Yes, that's the actual name. There are 2 of them in test case 2 and 3 of them in test case 3. Now what this does is put a very, very big and slow-moving multi-head projectile in front of you. It's active for a very, very long time, and you might think that it's super useful because it's slow and it's like having decelerate on your other projectiles. But it's really big and you can just swat it away with 1 hit. So that is unfortunate. But in neutral, they do have to deal with it. They can jump over it, which is, you know, you can anti-air, they can hit it and you can try to whiff punish, or they can get hit by it and it's a multi-hit and you'll combo. You'll just get a full combo basically. If they block, it is an amazing block tool. So what it does is you use it in a block string. You should use it in a block string because in neutral it's harder to get like its full value. If you use it in a block string, it's going to just sit on top of them for a multi-hit and it's going to give you whatever mix-up you want, or if they get hit by it, it's going to give you whatever combo you want. It does very good damage, it allows you to carry combos. You can, go from wall to wall with this thing, basically. Not alone, you have to have other spells, but it opens up going corner to corner. So, it's a very great pressure tool. Much like your Delayed Howling Metron, your Delayed TARDIS Metron is very, very good. It is essentially just a beefed up version of Delayed Howling Metron, because it's even more delayed, as in slower to cast, but it gives you even more power for what it is. Like, it's also a multi-hit, it also gives you crazy block stun, it gives you amazing combo carry, it gives you some very, very crazy stuff. So on block, you can just fully get all of your mana back, you can get all of your spells back, and you can meterlessly combo off of Tap Dust. Because you'll Tap Dust, it'll hit them, and then they'll start getting multi-hits, which will be 3 hits. And then you can do whatever you want after that, because by the time they're done getting hit, your Tap Dust is recovered, you're done, you're good. You can also be safe if you do Charge Dust, if you time it right. So, it just gives you so much time to set up whatever you want, and does really good damage. It's very, very helpful. It is a very valued spell. So, your next spell is Terra Metron. There are 1 of them in test case 1, there are 3 of them in test case 2. I'm almost positive, yes, it is, I just double checked. So, this, as by the name Terra goes, it affects the ground, so it shoots rocks from below you, and they hit low. They are a very, very good low option. You can also use it in the air because it's not actually affecting the ground, it's magic, but in the air it is a mid, it's not a low in the air. So it's a very long range tool, it's not full screen, but it's a very long range low poke basically. It's a strong tool for just block strings because it's low. If you have the next spell that I'm going to talk about, a Scimitar Metron, you could just get 50/50s, but you have a standing overhead, you have tap dust, you have jump ins. You can have 50/50s just by having this loaded, which is really, really good. You can catch backdashes because it's so long and it's so low. You can just do some crazy, crazy stuff with this. So if you use this, you're gonna hit low, right? And you imagine, okay, that was a low. That's gotta be negative on block. It's not. It's not good on block. I mean, it is. It is for what it is. But it's not like you can do whatever you want on block. But it's not negative either. The fact that you have a low that is safe on block is, and even slightly advantageous on block, is downright criminal. Now, it's a very exclusive spell, there's not many of them, but there's no travel time. When you cast it, it's just out, it just actives, it's just active. And it's a low. I'm not sure how, if everybody understands, it is a low. Then you might be thinking, okay, so it's a like half screen, very fast, low poke that is safe on block. Obviously, you're not gonna get a combo off of it, but you can. You can get a combo off of it if you use another spell or if you're just in range to hit them with a normal. You can combo off of it, which is insane, and this is a very, very good, just offensive spell. It is fantastic. It's fantastic. It's amazing. I was gonna say fantastic and amazing at the same time, and I said fantasing or something. So, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It is great. It's wonderful. Now, I mentioned it while talking about Terra Metron. The inverse is your Scimitar Metron. Scimitar Metron is also a like half screen, but it tracks the opponent. So it puts a little summon above the opponent and it'll lock onto them as long as they're within half screen. And it will drop it's referred to as a bowling ball because it's just what it is, it's a condensed, black hole or whatever. It is, just normal wizard stuff. Or, it looks like a Syndra sphere from League of Legends. It's a dark sphere that is very, very dense, and it falls down on the opponent's head. So this is a overhead. Now, I should mention, this and Terra Metron do launch lower compared to most spells, so it's harder to get an amazing combo off of it, especially from further away, but they still do allow you to combo. So having both of these, you just have 50/50s. Having just one of these, you have standing lows, you have standing overheads, that also gives you 50/50s, but if you have both, that is disgusting. So, I mean, it's also good in neutral because most people just down back to block because it's safe. You'll catch them if they're down backing because this is an overhead and it'll hit them in the head. It's a high, so it's very good for catching people in neutral, and it's very good for opening up people's blocks because you can even combo after it. So that is just very, very amazing. You can use it to catch jumps if you want as well, because it's very quick to active, and it does, for the most part, lock into where people are. The tracking isn't amazing, it's not a huge hitbox, but, so if they're running or moving, it'll usually miss, but you can time it right, you can do some crazy stuff, or, if on block string, which is when you're meant to use it really, it's gonna hit them, and it's also, like Terra Metron, not super plus on block, but it's not negative either. You are safe if you use this on block, especially if you just cancel it immediately into another spell, so keep that in mind, you can just do that. So, it's very, very good. And much like Terra Metron, there's 1 in test case 1 and 3 in test case 2. So it's also very exclusive. I mean, yes, there's 4 of them total, so it's not super exclusive, but it's relatively exclusive. Next up, you have my least favorite Metron, your Aquila Metron. This shoots a Metron in the shape of an ice stalagmite in front of you. So, this is very fast. I mean, it's not very fast, it's slow, but you are strike and vuln from frames 1 to 15. It is minus 25 on block. It is very, very unsafe on block. You have like a full second of recovery if you whip it. You don't want to whip this. You don't want to have this blocked. This is your defensive option. There is one singular copy of this spell in test case 1, and that is all you get. That's all you have. If you don't from and cancel this, it's gonna be very, very bad. So, it's gonna hurt. And it's important to notice, most DPs are much faster than this. As far as DPs go, this one is very, very slow. If somebody just jabs you, is going for jabs or going for kicks, and you use it, they can block in time, and then full punish you with whatever they want. So if you're against somebody who's good, who knows what this spell is, and they see that you have it, and they think that you're going to do it, they can still meaty you with a kick or a punch, but it's mostly going to be kick. And that is the best of both worlds, because they don't have to, they don't have to give anything up. They can hit you, they can make you block it, they can make you get hit if you're mashing with kick, which goes into sweep, which is another thing, or pick into whatever they want, really. RC, super, etc. Overdrive rather than super, to get the terminology exactly correct. But if you start doing it, they can kick, block, and then full punish you with whatever they want. I do not like a cool Metron. I do not really think. I usually discard it. I don't even want to risk using it, because I just don't like it. I mean, yes, it's saved me a few times, but it's very committal, and it's very just awkward to use, and it's only good in defense. I usually like having offensive spells, and if I'm in defense, I like just using system mechanics, like I'm fine with that. So I don't really need this spell most of the time, but it's very important to at least know how to use it. And it's your invincible reversal. It's your only option for it. It's the only invincible reversal you have. Like, it's really only useful in defense, especially since you can't cancel this one like every other spell. And when you use this, you're committed to it. So it's only for defense. The next spell that we can talk about is also Metron, your Bitshift Metron. Bitshift Metron is very interesting because it starts at level 1 or level 5. If it starts at level 1, over time it increases to level 5, and vice versa. If it starts at 5, it reduces down to level 1. Now, Bitshift Metron is available in test case 2, where there are 2 cards, and test case 3, which there are 4 cards. So it's very common in test case 3. At level 1, it is a slightly worse version of Howling Metron, which is your blue Metron, but every single level makes it better and better. At level 5, it's one of your strongest spells. It's a very fast startup and covers a lot in front and below you. It's not quite as wide of an arc as MS Processing, but it still is very sizable. The good thing about it is it's very hard to destroy it with normals or hitting it. It's very hard to just swat away. It is very, very good on block, especially if you have it at level 5, and it is very, very high damage. It's one of your highest damage spells that you have access to. It is very amazing. So, you of course do want to use it at level 5, which you're not always going to be able to do, but when you do use it at level 5, it is a fantastic spell, and probably just baseline one of its strongest because it's very fast, it's very safe, it's very easy to throw out, very easy to combo extend, very high damage, very good block stun. It is an amazing, amazing spell. There's not super a lot to talk about it because it's just a very solid, good spell. Imagine just shooting 5 Howling Metrons in one spell, or 12% mana. That's very, very good. So, very important to use it like as high level as you can. And, you know, if it starts at level 5, use it as soon as possible, or as soon as, you know, it's useful. As soon as it would be useful, because if you're gonna miss it, it's, you know, you don't want to use it if you're gonna miss it. It starts at level 1, you should hold it for as long as you can in the hopes of getting it to level 5, because it is always going to be worth it. So, do your best to keep this one, Bitshift Metron, at a high level and use it, because it's very, very good. You can also call these your orange cubes or fire cubes, but Bitshift Metron is much cooler of a name. So, your next spell is RMS Boost Metron, or Pages. So, RMS Boost Metron is very, very similar to Metron Screamer 808, in the sense that it is short range and it is in front of you. However, it's slightly smaller of a hitbox and just has slightly worse frame data. But it makes up for this in being much, much better on block. So if they block this, they're very, very negative, and you can, you know, have a very, very strong pressure. Also, instead of wall bouncing, it launches upwards into a combo extender, which means if you're not in the corner, it's more of a combo tool as opposed to hitting them with Metron Screamer 808 and sending them full screen. So it's also that, and depending on what you want, it's better or worse at that, because sometimes sending them full screen is really, really good, but being able to extend a combo is also really, really good, and for the most part better, because more damage is always good. So there's that. It also has level 1 and level 5, or level 1 through 5, so it functions differently from Bitshift Metron. So for every 11 spells that you cast, RMS Boost Metron will gain 1 level, which is a lot of spells to be casting. You're not often going to get it at level 5, but each level causes it to deal an additional 11 damage. So it goes from 55 to 66, 77, 88, 99. 99 damage is a lot of damage. Like, it is an incredible amount of damage. So don't, for one spell especially, so don't just, you know, sneeze at that. But getting it to level 5, you're not gonna really get that. It's a training mode thing. It's a training mode. Like, check out this crazy damage. In a real match, I think the highest I've ever seen it is 3. So, keep that in mind. But you don't really need to, because it's a great spell at level 1. It's a very, very good combo extender. It's a very, very high damage spell. It's fast, and it's a good poke. It's also very, very pleasant block, so it's just very good. It's kind of the thing about his spells. Every single one of his spells are good. So, yeah, don't really worry about leveling up the spell specifically, just use it whenever you can. Don't hold on to it in the hopes of leveling it up, unless you're close to a level up and you've been keeping track. Which, let's be honest, nobody in the world is doing that, so just use it. Now, we're going to move on from Metrons, as that was the last Metron there is to talk about. We're going to kind of go through these ones a lot faster because I've been talking for a while and my throat's starting to get sore. So, and these ones just have less to talk about for the most part. So now that we're done with Metrons, we can move on to your other spells. These ones don't really have specific categories. So the first one is going to be Go-To Marker. So this is a teleport. It's not a full screen teleport, but it is an 8-way teleport where you can teleport anywhere you want. And there were 4 of them. You have 4 teleport cards in test case 3, so you can get a lot of teleports. It's very, very good for mix-ups when you're using Metron Arpeggio, or delayed Metrons, or just going for cross-ups, or anything like that. It is an okay option on its own. I would not use this to approach, but you can use it to run away if you really want. It's not the best in neutral, but what it is, I mean, it's a great option to approach if you want to PRC it. And it's a great whiff punish. Well, but what it is very, very good at is either teleporting to the top of the screen where you can draw cards safely, or mix-ups, such as what I said earlier, when you're using something that's active like a delayed Metron or Metron Arpeggio. It's very, very good at crossing up, and it's strong. Like, it's a teleport. It is very, very good. Next, you have Sampler 404. Sampler 404 is very, very good because it makes your next spell not discard, and it's only the immediate after spell. So, it's good. It's very, very strong. There's only one of them in test case 3. You only get one. It's very, very good when you have it at the right time. So, I mean, basically, it's just always a good buff because you just get another spell that you use. That's always good. I don't care what you say, that's always good. But when you have it at the perfect time, it is amazing. Say you have a Metron Arpeggio or a level 5 bit shift Metron. You can just cast 2 of them. That is very, very good. It keeps the levels of bit shift Metron. If you have the shift Metron at level 5, you can use it, continue your combo, use it again, continue your combo, and then use any of your other 3 spells. So that's a lot of potential damage because how strong the shift Metron is. And of course, you can use it for go to marker to make more teleport plays. You can use it with Metron Arpeggio to fill the screen more. Can't use it with staffs because you can only have one staff of a kind out. I mean, so you can use the staff, use your other spells, and when the staff runs out, you can use the staff again because you still have it because you didn't technically use it. You just use the sampler 404. But that's more, that's not really very common to use it for. But if you really want to have a staff out for as long as you can do that. It's great for if you get mana regen continuous because when it runs out, you can just use it again. Not great for bookmark auto import because you'll probably get another one in bookmark auto import. But I mean, it is like when I say not great for bookmark auto import, I don't mean it's bad. I mean there's just better options. Bookmark auto import. If you use Sampler 404 on it, you can just do all of your auto imports, crazy bullshit, and then use it again right after, which is amazingly good. But usually by the time, like, you won't need another one. But if you do, you have it. So, honestly, I said it's not that good, but it really is very good. Like all of your spells are so good, just having another use of them is really good as well. Next up, you have Chaotic Option. So, Chaotic Option is found in test case 2, where there's one of them, and test case 3, which there's one of them. So, it's also very rare, much like Sampler 404, where there are 2 of them, if you're in test case 2, or 2 of them total. There's 1 in 2 and 1 in 3, so it's slightly more common. So, Chaotic Option is a spell that you get in which you should just immediately use. It gives you a, quote, powerful spell at random, and it can be from any test case. It's from any test case, it doesn't matter. So, what is a powerful spell? So, the spells that you can get are Bookmark Auto Import, yeah, which is a very good spell. Recover Mana Continuous, which is another amazing spell. Metron Arpeggio, which is. Those are these three strongest spells, in my opinion. And yes, so Chaotic Option does give you those, but it also gives you either a Scipitar Metron or Terra Metron, and those are both also very, very strong. So when Chaotic Option said it gives you a random powerful spell, it was not lying, because all of those spells are very, very strong. And if you're in test case 3, you don't have access to a Scipitar or Terra Metrons until you get this, which is very, very good. It can be a bonus auto import or recover mana continuous, which is very, very good. It can be another Metron Arpeggio, which is very, very good. They're all very, very good. So if you're in Case 2, you have access to Metron Arpeggio, if you get lucky. Or if you're in Case 3, you have a 4th Metron Arpeggio, which is amazing. You have more. It's just great. It's really good. Functionally, of course, it is not as good as just getting the spell because you have to cast it, use 4% mana, whatever. But it always gives you a strong spell. And yes, they are strong spells. So it's good to have. It's very safe. So it's great. You can also use it for ambiguous mix-ups because it does have a, it has a spellcast animation, of course. So it's very strong for doing things. And let's say, perfect situation. You have a Scipitar Metron and Terra Metron and Chaotic Option. Like, Chaotic Option is basically like a fake out I'm casting a spell because it doesn't throw anything. You can be very, very ambiguous. So you can kind of go for a block string and then a Scipitar Metron, and then let's say they're good and they're looking at your spells and they know what you have. You start casting another spell, you're probably gonna block low. But because you have Terra, but if you do Chaotic Option, you could theoretically get another Scipitar. Or other strong spells, it's the perfect situation and you get another Scipitar, you just use that Scipitar and hit him with an overhead, with 2 overheads, which would be absurd. Or, they'll see that you cast, realize that nothing hit them, panic, go back and up blocking whatever they were blocking at first, and then you can hit them with, Terra Metron, or whatever you didn't use. So, since doing down back is the most safe, you probably do Terra Metron, Chaotic Option, and then they'll be standing because they see that you have an Scipitar, but you're just doing Chaotic Option. And if they realize, they'll probably crouch back down to down back because down back is really safe, and then you can throw out your Scipitar. That's a good fake out. Is it particularly super useful? No, not really. But it is technically something you can do. The mind game is very situational. Not a lot of people are going to be reacting to it like that. But it's just an idea. I'm just giving you an idea of how you can use the Chaotic Option in a technically offensive way as a fake-out spellcast. Which is great, but just basic what it is on paper is you get it and it gives you 1 of 5 really, really good spells, and all of the spells are very, very good. So, let's use it. And that's the last spell. That's the last spell in the Asuka spellbook. That's every single one of them. So, thank you very much for watching my ASMR video. I know I kind of forgot to whisper in a lot of this, but I do just get kind of excited, especially when I'm talking about spells and magic and Asuka and all of his abilities. I kind of just get very excited and ramble and talk very quickly and louder about all the possible things you can do, what things do. So, I know I should have been much more chill and relaxed and sultry or whatever. But if you're still listening, I'm gonna hope you're probably asleep by now, if that's what you were doing. But if you just fucking raw dogged this entire video, like, while you're on your computer, and you're at this point, I thank you, I guess. It's kind of weird, but I appreciate it. You were honestly kind of supposed to like pass out at some point in this video and not really listen to most of it. But yeah. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you later.